The massive crystalline chamber on Vexthera hummed with nervous energy as representatives from 12 of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations gathered for an emergency meeting. The bioluminescent walls pulsed with shifting colors, reflecting the tension that filled the ancient council hall like a living thing. Ambassador Kethvar the Dominion stepped forward, his tall, pale form casting long shadows across the polished floor. In his 4 hands, he held data tablets that glowed with damning evidence. Behind him, holographic displays showed star maps covered in angry red markers, each one representing a human violation of galactic law. Fellow council members, Kethvar began, his voice carrying the weight of 3,000 years of diplomatic tradition. We face a crisis unlike any in recorded history. These humans, these young mammals who barely discovered faster-than-light travel 100 years ago, have shown complete disregard for our authority. The evidence was overwhelming. Human colonies had sprouted like weeds in forbidden sectors, their crude metal structures standing defiantly in zones that have been declared off-limits for millennia. Their military ships flew through space lanes that belonged to older, more established species. Their traders flooded markets with cheap goods that destroyed carefully balanced economic systems. Council Elder Mordina, her crystalline body refracting light into rainbow patterns, spoke with obvious anger. In 5,000 years of maintaining galactic peace, no species has dared to challenge our authority so openly. They ignore our warnings. They break our treaties. They act as if we do not exist. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The proud Veltani, whose empire stretched across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, clicked their mandibles in frustration. The ancient progenitors, beings of pure energy who had witnessed the birth of stars, flickered with indignation. General Thaxmore of the Zephyrian Collective stood up, his insect-like form towering over the other delegates. "I have commanded fleets for 4 centuries," he said, his voice buzzing with barely controlled rage. "I have brought entire star systems to their knees with a single show of force. Yet these humans continue their expansion as if my warships were nothing more than space debris." The holographic displays changed, showing human colonies that should have been abandoned months ago. Instead of empty worlds, they showed bustling cities, growing populations, and defensive structures that grew stronger each day. "They received our first warning 6 months ago," Ambassador Kethvar continued. "We told them to stop their illegal expansion. Their response was to build 12 new colonies in the following month. We sent them a second warning 3 months ago," added Elder Mordina. "We threatened them with economic sanctions. They responded by undercutting our trade routes and stealing our customers. And when we sent our 3rd warning last month, General Thaxmore growled. Threatening them with military action, they had the audacity to establish a military base in the Kepler sector, right in the heart of disputed space." The chamber fell silent as the full weight of human defiance settled on the assembled representatives. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council had maintained order through a simple formula: overwhelming superiority backed by the threat of total destruction. Species that stepped out of line were quickly reminded of their place in the galactic hierarchy. But humanity was different. They acted as if they had never heard of the concept of knowing one's place. Council Supreme Leader Vexhara, the oldest being in the chamber at nearly 10,000 years old, slowly rose from her throne-like seat. Her voice, when she spoke, carried the authority of ages. "The situation is clear," she announced. "Humanity has proven they cannot be reasoned with through normal diplomatic channels. They understand only strength. Therefore, we must show them strength." The vote was unanimous. Every species present agreed that humanity had gone too far. They would receive one final ultimatum: withdraw from all disputed territories within 30 standard cycles, or face the combined military might of 12 ancient civilizations. The message was prepared with all the ceremonial weight the Council could muster. It was broadcast across subspace networks, transmitted through diplomatic channels, and sent directly to Earth's capital city of New Geneva. The language was formal, the tone was grave, and the threat was unmistakable. To the government of Earth and all human settlements, the message began: "You have repeatedly violated galactic law and ignored the legitimate authority of the Galactic Council. This is your final warning. You have 30 standard cycles to withdraw all human presence from disputed territories. Failure to comply will result in military action from the combined forces of 12 galactic civilizations. The choice is yours. As the message traveled through space toward the small blue planet humans called home, the council members felt confident in their course of action. They had seen the scenario play out hundreds of times before. The target species would panic, their leaders would beg for mercy, and within days, negotiations would begin. They expected desperate calls for meetings. They expected frantic attempts at compromise. They expected fear, submission, and the restoration of proper galactic order. What they got instead would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The message reached Earth on a quiet Tuesday morning, and somewhere in the depths of Seoul's military command centers, General Park Da-hoon read it carefully, filed it away, and began to prepare for war. 26 cycles had passed since the Council's ultimatum reached Earth, and the silence from human space was becoming unbearable. In the command center of the Council flagship Eternal Vigilance, Captain Thexmore paced back and forth across the bridge, his 6 legs clicking against the metal floor with increasing agitation. Any word from the human diplomatic channels? He asked his communications officer for the 15th time that day. Lieutenant Zarbeth shook her head, her tentacles writhing with frustration. Nothing beyond their initial response, sir. The same message they sent 25 cycles ago. Message received and understood. Earth thanks the Council for their communication. Captain Thexmore stopped pacing and stared at the tactical display. Red dots mark human colonies throughout the disputed sectors. According to the scouts, not a single settlement had been abandoned. If anything, human activity had increased dramatically over the past month. This makes no sense, he muttered to himself. Every species in galactic history has responded to our ultimatums with either immediate compliance or desperate attempts at negotiation. But these humans, they act as if we never spoke to them at all. On the other side of the galaxy, similar conversations were happening on every council member's flagship. The proud Veltani had sent 3 separate diplomatic missions to human space, each one ignored completely. The ancient progenitors had attempted to communicate through energy patterns that had worked for thousands of years, only to receive automated responses directing them to fill out proper trade permit applications. The Zephyrian Collective had taken a more direct approach, sending scout ships to observe human colonies up close. What they found disturbed them greatly. Instead of panicking populations preparing for evacuation, they saw construction crews working around the clock. Instead of defensive positions being abandoned, they saw new weapons platforms being built at an alarming rate. Commander Rixtal of the Zephyrian Scouts submitted his report with trembling hands. Sir, the humans are not preparing to leave. They are preparing to fight. Every colony we observed has tripled its defensive capabilities in the past month. They are building weapons we have never seen before. General Thaxmore read the report in his command chamber, his insectoid features twisting with disbelief. Impossible, he buzzed. No species would dare prepare for war against a combined council fleet. They must know such resistance is suicide. But the evidence was clear. Human ships moved through space with purpose and efficiency. Their colonies expanded rather than contracted. Their military installations grew stronger each day. Meanwhile, on Earth, the silence was not empty at all. In the underground command bunkers beneath Seoul, Busan, and Tokyo, humanity's greatest military minds worked tirelessly to prepare for what they knew was coming. General Kim Miho stood before a massive holographic display, showing the entire galactic sector. Red indicators marked every known council military base, every fleet position, every strategic asset they had been able to identify through months of careful observation. Status report on Operation Silent Thunder, he commanded. Colonel Lee Sora stepped forward with a data pad. All civilian populations have been evacuated from the outer colonies, sir. Military personnel and essential infrastructure remain in place. The enemy will find targets, but not the ones they expect. And our defensive preparations? Proceeding ahead of schedule, sir. The Kepler 442B installations are fully operational. The Proxima Centauri shipyards have completed the new weapon systems. All fleet commanders have received their orders and are in position. General Kim nodded with satisfaction. While the council waited for human panic and submission, Humanity had spent every moment of the past month preparing for the inevitable conflict. They had studied every piece of intelligence about Council military tactics, analyzed every capture transmission, and reverse-engineered every piece of alien technology they could acquire through trade or espionage. The humans had learned something important about their potential enemies during those 30 cycles of preparation. The Council species were old, comfortable in their superiority, and set in their ways. They had not fought a truly challenging war in millennia. Their tactics were predictable, their technology was stagnant, and their confidence was their greatest weakness. Dr. Park Yunji, head of Earth's Xenotechnology Division, presented her findings to the assembled military leadership. Their energy weapons are powerful but predictable. Their shields operate on frequencies we can disrupt. Most importantly, they expect us to fight like them, with honor, according to their rules, using their preferred methods of warfare. And we will not, General Kim stated simply. No, sir, we will fight like humans. As the final cycles of the ultimatum ticked away, panic began to spread through the Council fleet. Species that had never doubted their supremacy now faced the terrifying possibility that their authority meant nothing to these upstart mammals. Ambassador Kethvar called emergency meetings daily, each one more desperate than the last. They must be planning something, he insisted to his fellow council members. No species remains as calm in the face of certain destruction unless they have a plan. Elder Mordina's crystalline form flickered with uncertainty. Perhaps they do not understand the magnitude of the force arrayed against them. Should we send another message explaining exactly how many ships we possess? We have sent 17 additional communications. General Faxmore replied grimly. Each one receives the same polite acknowledgement and nothing more. The final cycle of the ultimatum arrived with no change in human behavior. No evacuations, no surrender, no desperate pleas for mercy. Just silence, cold and calculating as the void of space itself. As the deadline approached, one truth became clear to all involved. Humanity's silence was not born of ignorance or fear. It was the silence of predators preparing to hunt. The greatest military force in galactic history emerged from hyperspace above Kepler. 442b like a storm of metal and death. Hundreds of thousands of warships stretched across the star system in perfect formation. Massive Dominion dreadnoughts that could crack planets in half, living Zephyrian bioships that move like clouds of angry insects, and the impossible crystalline vessels of the Nexary that flickered between dimensions. Admiral Vexhall stood on the bridge of his flagship Galaxy's Wrath, watching the tactical displays with deep satisfaction. In his 400 years of military service, he had never seen such an overwhelming show of force. This would be the shortest war in galactic history. Sir, his communications officer reported, we are receiving no distress signals from the planet below. No evacuation requests, no surrender broadcasts. Admiral Vexhall smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. They are probably too terrified to speak. Begin scanning for population centers. But the scanners showed something unexpected. Kepler 442b was dark. The sprawling cities that intelligence reports had shown just weeks ago were gone. The massive industrial complexes had been stripped bare. The planet that should have held 3 million human civilians was empty. Sir, the scanning officer said nervously, I'm detecting no major population centers. The planet appears to have been evacuated. The admiral's smile faded. Impossible. Our intelligence showed 3 million humans on this world. They could not have moved that many people without us detecting it. Sir, we are detecting human vessels in orbit. Admiral Vexhall turned to the tactical display. How many? 12 ships, sir. Laughter erupted across the bridge. 12 ships. 12 small, unremarkable vessels facing a combined might of 12 galactic civilizations. It was almost insulting. The human ships were nothing impressive to look at. Angular, utilitarian craft that looked more like cargo haulers and warships. They lacked the elegant curves of Veltani battlecruisers, the living beauty of Zephyrian biovessels, or the impossible geometries of progenitor energy constructs. They were simple metal boxes with engines and weapons, built by a species that apparently had no understanding of proper ship design. Admiral Vexhall opened communications. expecting to hear desperate pleas for mercy or last-minute attempts at negotiation. Instead, a calm human voice filled his bridge speakers. "This is Commander Lee Jasu of a human defense force. You have entered human territory without authorization. You have 30 minutes to withdraw your forces and leave the system." The silence that followed was broken by uncontrolled laughter from every bridge in the Council fleet. 30 minutes. This tiny human commander was giving them, the greatest military force ever assembled, 30 minutes to retreat. Admiral Vexhall composed himself and activated his own communications. His voice carried the authority of countless victories. "Commander Lee, I am Admiral Vexhall of the Galactic Council Combined Fleet. You are facing over 300,000 warships from 12 civilizations. You have exactly one opportunity to surrender before we demonstrate why resistance is futile." Commander Lee's response was broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring every ship in both fleets heard it clearly. "Admiral Vexhall, you have 29 minutes remaining." The human's voice carried no fear, no uncertainty, no recognition of the impossible odds she faced. It was a voice of someone stating a simple fact, like commenting on the weather. Admiral Vexhall felt his 4 hearts beating faster. In 4 centuries of warfare, no enemy had ever spoken to him with such casual dismissal. Pirates begged for mercy. Rebel fleets tried to negotiate. Even the most fanatical terrorists showed some acknowledgement of the power they faced. But this human commander spoke as if the largest military force in galactic history was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. "Sir," his tactical officer whispered, "should we begin the attack?" Admiral Vexhall stared at the tactical display. 12 human ships, 300,000 council vessels. The mathematics were simple. Each council ship would need to fire exactly once, and there would still be hundreds of thousands of ships left over. "All ships," he broadcast across the fleet, "prepare for simultaneous bombardment. We will demonstrate the price of defying the Galactic Council." The response in the human fleet was immediate and unexpected. Instead of preparing defensive positions or attempting to flee, the 12 human ships spread out into an attack formation. "Sir," the scanning officer reported with disbelief, "the human vessels are targeting our lead ships." Admiral Vexhall laughed again, but this time the sound was forced. "Let them. Their weapons cannot possibly penetrate our shields." Commander Lee's voice came across the communications one final time. "Admiral, you now have 15 minutes. I suggest you use them wisely." As if her words were a signal, space around Kepler, 442b erupted in violence. But it was not the violence anyone expected. The human ships fired first, and their weapons were unlike anything in the Council's databases. Instead of energy beams or plasma bolts, they launched simple chunks of metal. Railgun projectiles accelerated to significant fractions of light speed. The first salvo struck Admiral Vexhall's flagship like the hammer of an angry god. The galaxy's wrath shields, designed to deflect the most sophisticated energy weapons in the galaxy, proved completely useless against basic matter traveling at relativistic speeds. As his flagship's hull buckled and atmosphere vented into space, Admiral Vexhall realized with growing horror that humanity had not been ignoring the Council's ultimatum. They had been preparing for war. The Battle of Kepler. 442b lasted exactly 14 minutes and 37 seconds, and in that brief span of time, the galaxy's understanding of warfare changed forever. Admiral Vexhall watched in stunned horror as his flagship's shields collapsed under the impact of what his sensors classified as primitive kinetic projectiles. The galaxy's wrath, a vessel that had survived the plasma storms of the Omega Wars and the energy hurricanes of the Veil Nebula campaign, was being torn apart by simple chunks of metal. "How is this possible?" he shouted over the alarms that filled his bridge. "Our shields are rated against the most advanced weapons in the galaxy." His chief engineer, blood streaming down his pale face from a head wound, struggled to make sense of the readings. "Sir, their projectiles are traveling at nearly 20% light speed. Our shields are designed to deflect energy weapons, not physical matter moving at relativistic velocities." Across the Council fleet, similar scenes of chaos unfolded. The proud Veltani dreadnoughts, their bioorganic hulls designed to absorb and redirect energy attacks, found themselves helpless against simple metal slugs that punched through their defenses like paper. The The Zephyrian swarm ships, whose strength lay in numbers and coordinated movement, discovered that their elegant formations meant nothing when the enemy could strike with pinpoint accuracy from impossible distances. What the Council had failed to understand was that humanity had spent those 30 cycles of apparent silence doing exactly what humans did best, learning, adapting, and preparing for war. On Earth, in the deep command bunkers beneath Seoul, Admiral Cho Hyunwoo watched the battle unfold on massive holographic displays. Every human ship was connected through quantum communication networks, allowing them to coordinate their attacks with precision that no enemy had ever faced. Status on captured enemy technology analysis, he asked his chief scientist, Dr. Shin Eun-hee. Phase 1 complete, sir, she reported, her fingers dancing over control panels as data streamed across her screens. We've successfully analyzed their shield frequencies, weapon targeting systems, and communication protocols. The AI systems have identified 17 critical weaknesses in their fleet formations. Dr. Shin had spent the last month doing something that no species in galactic history had ever attempted: reverse engineering alien technology in real time during active combat. While the Council ships fought using weapons and tactics that have remained unchanged for centuries, human vessels adapted and evolved with each passing minute. Sir, called out Captain Kim Tae-hoon from his position at the tactical station, Enemy Formation 7 is attempting to flank our position. Recommend deploying Countermeasure Package Delta. Approved, Admiral Cho replied, and activate the surprise we prepared for their energy weapons. What happened next defied everything the Council thought they knew about human technology. The 12 human ships suddenly split apart, each vessel deploying dozens of smaller craft that moved with impossible coordination. But these were not traditional fighter ships. They were autonomous drones, controlled by artificial intelligence systems that could process battle data and adjust tactics faster than any organic mind. Admiral Vexhull, still struggling to keep his damaged flagship operational, watched the tactical display with growing disbelief. They have over 300 vessels now. Where did they come from? Sir, his tactical officer reported, each human ship appears to have been carrying multiple smaller craft. Our intelligence completely missed this capability. But the drones were only the beginning. As Council ships began targeting the new threats, they discovered that human defensive technology was as revolutionary as their weapons. Instead of energy shields, the humans used something far more effective: adaptive armor that could adjust its molecular structure in response to different types of attacks. The progenitors, beings of pure energy who consider themselves the most advanced species in the galaxy, found their most sophisticated weapons completely neutralized by armor that seemed to learn and adapt with each strike. The Nexari phase ships, capable of shifting between dimensions to avoid enemy fire, discovered that human targeting systems could track them across multiple dimensional frequencies simultaneously. This is impossible, whispered Elder Mordina from her command ship. Their technology should be centuries behind ours. How are they countering attacks that have never failed before? The answer was simple, though the Council would not understand it until much later. Humanity had never developed a single, perfect weapon system like other species. Instead, they had created something far more dangerous: weapons and defenses that could evolve and improve during combat. Every shot fired by Council forces was analyzed by human AI systems. Every tactical movement was studied and countered. Every weapon frequency was mapped and neutralized. In the space of 14 minutes, human technology advanced by decades, incorporating and improving upon everything the Council threw at them. Commander Lee Jasu, still calm and composed despite commanding humanity's most important battle, opened communications one final time. Admiral Vexhull, you now have 30 seconds to order a full retreat. This is your only remaining opportunity to save what is left of your fleet. Admiral Vexhull looked at his tactical display. Of the 300,000 ships he had brought to humble humanity, less than half remained operational. His fleet, the pride of 12 civilizations, was being systematically destroyed by 12 human vessels and their swarm of adaptive drones. The retreat order, when it finally came, was given not out of tactical necessity, but out of pure terror. The greatest military force in galactic history fled from a handful of human ships, carrying with them the knowledge that the galaxy's balance of power had shifted forever. In the aftermath, as human recovery teams salvaged Council technology from the wreckage, Dr. Shin smiled at her data readings. The real learning was just beginning. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler, 442b, the surviving ships of the once mighty Council fleet limped back to Vextera like wounded animals returning to their den. Of the 300,000 vessels that had departed with such confidence, barely 150,000 remained operational. The rest floated as debris in human space, their wreckage already being harvested by human salvage crews. In the crystalline chambers where the fate of the galaxy had been decided for millennia, silence reigned like a funeral shroud. The bioluminescent walls that once pulsed with the confident glow of absolute power now flickered with the dim light of defeat and uncertainty. Elder Mordina sat in her council seat, her crystalline form dulled and cracked from the stress of recent events. Around her, the other surviving council members looked like shadows of their former selves. The proud Veltani delegate kept his head bowed, unable to meet anyone's gaze. The Zephyrian representative's wings drooped with exhaustion and shame. How many of our ships made it back? Elder Mordina asked, though she already knew the answer would bring no comfort. Less than half, Elder, reported General Thaxmore, his voice barely above a whisper. And most of those are heavily damaged. Our shipyards estimate it will take decades to rebuild what we lost. And the humans, they lost nothing, Elder. All 12 of their ships returned to their bases. Our intelligence suggests they are already building more vessels using technology they captured from our wrecks. The words hung in the air like poison, the greatest military disaster in galactic history, and the enemy had suffered no losses at all. But the true scope of humanity's victory became clear when the reports started arriving from across the galaxy. Human fleets had appeared simultaneously in the home systems of all 12 Council species, not as conquering armadas, but as a demonstration of power that spoke louder than any weapon. On Veltar Prime, the proud capital world of the Veltani Empire, citizens looked up at their skies to see human warships in perfect formation above their cities. The ships did not attack, did not threaten, did not even communicate. They simply existed, their presence making one thing absolutely clear. If humanity had wanted to destroy the Veltani homeworld, nothing could have stopped them. The same scene played out across every Council world. Human fleets appeared above Zephyrian hive cities, crystalline Nexri installations, and even the energy fields where the ancient progenitors made their homes. Each fleet was small, perhaps a dozen ships, but the message was impossible to ignore. The galaxy had new rules, and humanity had written them. Admiral Kim Tae-hoon stood on the bridge of the UHDF Indomitable, humanity's newest flagship, as it maintained a steady orbit around Vextera itself. The irony was not lost on him. A human warship circling the very world where the Council had decided humanity's fate just months earlier. When he finally spoke, his words were broadcast simultaneously to every inhabited world in known space. The transmission cut through all other communications, overrode all security protocols, and reached every receiver in the galaxy. Citizens of the galaxy, Admiral Kim began, his voice calm and measured. 6 months ago, the Galactic Council delivered an ultimatum to humanity. They demanded our withdrawal from territories we had legally settled. They threatened us with destruction if we did not comply with their demands. They expected fear. They expected submission. They expected us to beg for mercy. He paused, letting his words sink in across 1,000 worlds. The Galactic Council's ultimatum was received and carefully considered. Humanity's response is simple and final. We reject your authority completely. For thousands of years, you ruled through the illusion of inevitable superiority. You became comfortable in your dominance, convinced that your age made you wise and your technology made you invincible. You forgot the most important lesson in the universe. Evolution never stops. On Vextera below, the remaining council members listened to every word with growing dread. This was not a negotiation. This was not a demand for surrender. This was a statement of fact, delivered with the cold certainty of natural law. Your age of comfortable dominance is over, Admiral Kim continued. The galaxy now belongs to whoever is strong enough to hold it, smart enough to adapt, and brave enough to take what they need. Today, tomorrow, and for foreseeable future, that species is humanity. The transmission ended there. No demand for tribute, no list of conditions, no negotiations. Just a simple declaration that the balance of power had shifted permanently. In the days that followed, some council worlds chose cooperation and discovered that humans could be surprisingly reasonable partners, as long as respect was mutual and agreements were honored. These worlds found themselves with access to revolutionary human technology, profitable trade agreements, and protection from threats they had never imagined. Other worlds chose resistance and learned why a species that had evolved from apex predators on a world where everything tried to kill everything else was not easily discouraged. These worlds discovered that human warfare was unlike anything they had ever faced, swift, brutal, and utterly without mercy for those who chose to be enemies. The old galaxy died not with the roar of massive battles or the collapse of ancient empires, but with the same cold silence that had started it all. It was the silence of a species that needed no permission to take what they could hold, no validation to justify their actions, and no approval to claim their rightful place among the stars. Humanity had spoken, and the galaxy listened.